one more quick thing before we get started. So just one thing, we do have some elderly people who may need a seat. If you do see one and you would like to give up your seat, that is great. There's also a couple seats up here as well. Another thing, we are going to, again, we're going to keep our comments to 2 to 3 minutes, please. And if we do not get to you, or if you want to give us your information after your comment, you can give it to any one of us be here. I'll give it. Thank you. And I do have lots of cards for you guys as well if you just like to take a card. But again, any one of us three you can give your information to, and we will make sure it gets in the right hands. Again, 2 to 3 minutes, please, and let's respect everyone. Thank you. For those of us who were not here when I did make that announcement, when it does come time to speak, please raise your hand and I will walk around with the mic for you.
Okay, we're allowed to take pictures? Yeah. Okay, is everyone ready?
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kris. I'm your Attorney General, and it's great to be back in Benson, community that I love very much. Some of you know that I was born and raised in Prescott, which back 54 years ago felt a lot like Benson. I think we had 10,000 people then, so maybe a little bit bigger than Benson, but this feels like home to me. So thank you for allowing me to be with you. I am here to really hear from you about the ADI situation, and but I want to say a few things about the town halls that I do. Some of you know that I like to do town halls. Some of you have been to my town halls in the past. I especially like to do town halls in rural Arizona. I consider a big part of my mission as your Attorney General to protect rural Arizona, to stand up for rural Arizona. I'm from rural Arizona. As I like to say, I was born in Prescott and I'm going to die in Prescott. And I'll never leave that town. And I think that all too often politicians in Phoenix forget about rural Arizona. So, yes. I'm seeing a lot of and that will never be me. And I want to also tell you a little bit about why I'm here in terms of the issue. So, obviously I want to hear from you and hear your thoughts, both whatever those thoughts are. If you're against this project or for it, I want to hear all of it. By the way, we do have multiple staffers here from the Attorney General's office. We have Tom Chabin right here. And Kirsten Engel, you might know her from several runs for Congress, but she is also now heading up my environmental protection unit inside the area. Nobody in Arizona who knows environmental law as well as Kirsten Engel, so I'm very blessed and fortunate to have her with us at the AG's office. And we have other folks who are going to be taking a lot of notes on what you say, and if you do speak, we would love it if you would, thank you. if you would give us your name and contact information if you're willing to be contacted afterwards, okay? That's really, really important. I also want to recognize, before I go on, the elected officials that we have here. I know we have several city council members, so I think we have Cindy Tapia, Councilwoman. We have council member Darren Hayes. Is Darren here? There he is. And I know we got Greg Volker, who's the city manager and our police chief. And we have Vice Mayor Levi Johnson. Levi? Maybe? Council member Mark, is it Rome? Or Rome? Romero, I'm sorry. It's supposed to cut off here. And then council member Patrick Boyle. That's it. Okay.
You got the form all right.
Representative Lucas, yes, that's here, thank you. Any other elected folks in the room? Okay, if someone comes in, let me know. So, in any case, why is the Attorney General here to talk about this issue? So, some of you have followed my use of nuisance law in other parts of the state. I am here because I want to understand the issue here in the community, but I also am here because it's my job to enforce the law. And that means all of the laws in the state of Arizona that apply to this situation and other situations. We do have a public nuisance law in Arizona. I have applied it in other situations in rural Arizona where we had corporations that were threatening to do harm to their surrounding neighborhoods and communities. There was a situation in Chino Valley, two situations actually in Chino Valley outside of my hometown, where we used nuisance law to stop what we believed would have been actions that we thought violated our state's nuisance law. One of those was a mining company that wanted to come in and literally blow up a mountaintop, overtop people's homes. It was directly in the community, and the mining company, and there were hundreds of surrounding existing homeowners, and they were going to blow up the mountain in the middle of the homes. I don't know if I can explain it to you graphically enough, but that is literally what was going to happen. So we filed a nuisance lawsuit, and that company went away. And then also in Chino Valley, we worked to dissuade, and I think successfully dissuade, a company called Kinder Morgan, which is a big gasoline, natural gas company that wanted to put a huge compressor station near a neighborhood called Haystack Ranches. Now, Haystack Ranches is exactly what it sounds like. It is a beautiful little community out beyond actually I think out beyond the city limits of Chino Valley, where Kinder Morgan and El Paso Natural Gas, basically the same company now, wanted to put this very big, very noisy compressor station, I think a third of a mile away from existing homeowners who were not expecting that to happen. And so I believe that we have resolved that situation. We will see. But again, I was talking about nuisance law in that community as well, and my duty as your Attorney General to enforce it. And then, of course, as you know, I did file a nuisance lawsuit against the Saudis in western Arizona for their excessive punishment. We're still in court on that one. I think we're gonna win that case because the Saudis have been allowed to pump so much water out of the ground there that they are dewatering the wells of their surrounding neighbors, including a Baptist church, a mobile home park, multiple ranchers, and they have caused the ground to literally sink underneath the town. And so that's just by way of example. Again, I'm not prejudging this situation, but I wanted you to understand one of the laws that I think that we have available to protect communities throughout Arizona under certain circumstances. And there may be others, there may be other ways to approach this situation, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I want to also say my office has received emails, texts, letters, and phone calls from many of you. Obviously, you're here for a reason. Concerned about the impacts of Aluminum Dynamics' proposed aluminum recycling facility on the health, property, and livelihoods of the people of Benson, including, and the environment, including the federally protected San Pedro National Riparian Area. And so, I'm just here to hear from you. And that's where this all starts. I'm here to hear from you. So why don't we, without further ado, just get started. And I know we have a lot of people. We have a volunteer right here. We're gonna, Desiree's gonna bring you the microphone. And again, since there's so many people, we got two hands over here. But, there's so many people. Please do keep your comments limited to 3 minutes if you can. And if someone has already said what you want to say, then maybe think about leaving it at that. But I'm here for you, so let's just get started.
Hi, my name is Gene Roynick, R-O-I, and No.
That's okay. I'll turn it off for now. I'll try to yell too.
Well, my name is Gene Roynick, R-O-I-N-I-C-K. And first off, Attorney General Mays, I want to thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule to be here. So I know you're busy. But I have many issues, obviously. Water, the air, especially the modeling that was done. They didn't really model the San Pedro Valley. And we live just north, which is downstream from the plant. And they did no modeling. And the winds here primarily blow from the south, southwest. So that means they're heading north and northeast, primarily. And they put a monitor in Tucson on Alberton and said, oh, well, the modeling shows the disbursement is just fine. And I'm like, well, yeah, but we don't get winds from the east here, not very rare. So that's one of my biggest concerns is the modeling wasn't done properly. And they don't want to monitor the air. There's no base readings or anything. We're working on collaboration right now, trying to get some air monitors installed for a base reading of the pollutants, so we have something to go against. But the state's not going to provide any type of monitoring whatsoever. ADEQ already told us that. And, the fact that they've never denied a permit before, it doesn't stand well. And now that I hear about this nuisance law, I'm thinking, well, yeah, that's a big issue. They're putting this pretty close, right in town. There's a nursing home right across the river. I mean, these people have, a lot of breathing issues, and people live here, a few hundred homes all within, half a mile. And they're gonna have, this is gonna be a 24/7, 365-day-a-year operation with something like 70 to 90 trucks a day and coming and going and noise and crushers and secondary smelters going and all kinds of things like that. And the last thing is the secrecy involved. Benson, the city of Benson only advertised where they're required to in the Herald paper, which is a paper from Sierra Vista, and is only available to subscribers. I live in the county. I didn't have any notice about this at all. I think they give more notice for their community luncheons on Friday than they gave to this. This is a big issue. Lastly, the last issue I have is with our county. The county planning and zoning person that approved the height variance for the towers also works for the city of Benson for planning and zoning, and she approved it. And the supervisors are 100% behind this plan. So we don't really stand a chance. I mean, we're fighting this, but you know, the city of Benson's against us, the county's against us, ADI's against us. I'm just worried about the air and the water, and we all get our water from the well. And this thing burns, what, 5,000 gallons a minute for those cooling towers. Now, a lot of that's recirculated water, but still, that's a lot of water. They're gonna have to pump out of the aquifer. So I have a lot of concerns, and thank you for your time. I do appreciate you being here.
Kenny Jans, and I'm a retired Army veteran, and we were totally ambushed on this whole thing, okay? So the way it went down, they basically, you know, just told us nothing. I mean, you almost had to be a psychic to know what was going on. As far as the way they went about getting the numbers and stuff, supposedly they control their own narrative, okay? So the people are out of it totally. For one thing, they provide the numbers to ADEQ, okay? And they are self-monitoring. What kind of honesty is that? You know, you need some sort of outside source to make sure they're doing their job, because they can put numbers any way they want them. Also, I did a little bit of research. There's chemicals that come out of that plant that can actually accelerate dementia, Alzheimer's, and I could give you more information if you want to see that. The ozone that normally protects us from stuff coming in, this plant will produce ozone, so they'll produce a dome over us. So all that concentrated stuff will just kind of linger. You know, a lot of people aren't looking at those aspects. What else did I have? Yeah, that is cadmium fluoride, brain poison, basically. That's we now have right now about 3,500 signatures out of 5,000 that oppose this. Almost 3/4 of the population oppose this. 3,500. 3,500 right here. And that's the thing. I mean, it's like us versus them. I mean, this is our town, and like you said, you grew up in a small town. You know, I don't want to die here and be the size of Phoenix. I really don't. You know, if they're going to start bringing stuff in here, bring things that aren't water thirsty, like Vendado, the housing development that they want 29,000 houses. This plant that sucks up water. Find some things. They kicked that place like IBM, Microsoft. I mean, they could have had plenty of job growth. Now, as far as the 90 jobs that they claim they're going to give to everybody, I guarantee you, 3/4 of the town don't even qualify for it. So they're going to be bringing more outsiders in. So really, there's not much there as far as job opportunities as far as this plant. And I feel it's a nuisance. The light pollution. The light pollution. You're going to have wear eclipse glasses in order to drive around at night. You know, and not to mention the traffic. And if you would take the chance to go on Highway 80 and look how close we are to Berry, the old folks home that they have for nursing. Yeah, it's horrible. I don't know why they ever approved something this close to town.
Yeah.
My name is Sharon Reed, and I work with San Pedro NRCD. And some of my bigger concerns is the fact that there's no baseline data. There's a well on private property that the man has offered. And we've tried to get U of A to come put a water monitoring device on it so we can. The pits that they're putting in, the 90-foot pit, they're going to hit water because we have artesian. I live a half a mile from the river, just south, and our water stands at 6 feet. So they're going to have artesian water. And So it will be a Superfund cleanup within 5 years. It will be no different than Apache nitrogen. You know, and I mean, it's just not the right location. There are 3 landowners and a business that's between the river and where they've cleared. They don't even have a road. And those people are afraid to speak out against this. I've talked to them. And if we get this 8-inch rain or even a 3-inch rain, they're gonna be covered in mud because it's gonna go straight downhill to the river and take everything with it. The other thing is, they've also leased not only the water they're buying from the city, but they're also using the water from the 3 old wells that belong to the Turquoise Hills Golf Course. So that's gonna be water in addition to what they're buying from the city, which has not been disclosed. So there's just a lot of stuff here that, I mean, to get by the river here was just not a good choice. And when you look at what Gila Bend asked for variances from ADI and what the city council asked, it really makes you sad. Makes you very sad for how ignorant the city council is on this and how lack of effort they put in. The last thing I would like to say, I don't live in the city, but I live about 2 miles out. This affects the entire valley. It affects south and north.
So when you say the entire valley, can you define that for me?
From Cascabel clear to the NCA, the National Conservation Area. And you know, like I've told a couple of my legislators, the thing that really they haven't thought about is when this river runs, they're gonna get this contamination on the Gila. It's going downhill. We're in a water adjudication situation that's very serious, and they're gonna be getting this ugly water if this actually goes through. Thank you very much for coming.
Hi, I'm Janelle Dobash, and I apologize, I have to read this because as soon as I got like celebrity in front of me, I would forget everything I was gonna say. Starstruck. So bear with me. Thank you so much for hosting this town hall. For residents to get the opportunity to be heard on this topic is amazing. I'm speaking on behalf of my young grandchildren. They will be at the school less than 1 mile from the plant. When we send our children off to school, we shouldn't have to worry about the air they are breathing on a daily basis and how it is affecting their growing lungs. I worry about the hundreds of tons of toxic emissions that will be emitted yearly and how it will affect their health over time. I want my grandchildren to experience all the great things growing up in Benson that their dad, grandfather, and great-grandfather did, but not at the expense of their health. This Title V secondary smelter puts all of that at risk. If their well runs dry due to ADI's excessive water usage, their future in Benson is in question. A public safety advisory committee was formed in February for the purpose of fact gathering and making recommendations to the mayor and city council. The committee did a great job. Here's what I learned from the meeting minutes of the last 8 months. Benson has a private ambulance company that responds to calls for EMS. They also have a volunteer fire department, which includes the chief and 2 full-time firefighter EMTs. Most volunteers work full-time jobs outside of Benson. When the ambulance is unavailable for medical help, the call goes to Benson Fire Department. Of the average 140 to 170 calls per month received by the fire department, approximately 50 to 60 of the calls to Benson Fire Department for medical help went unanswered. Chief Spangler states no calls for fire or traffic accidents go unanswered. Public safety and a 24/7 staff should be a top priority for the mayor, council, and city manager. They have a duty to the residents to staff with at least 6 full-time EMTs, firefighter EMTs, that the committee recommends for 24/7 coverage. Funds for emergency medical services should take priority over non-essentials in the budget, such as travel, hotels, the golf course with a reoccurring cost of $600,000, etc. Even though there is a private ambulance company, it is clear that residents are the ones suffering when they call for medical help. The ambulance company is out on another call, and they are routed to Benson Fire Department only to have their call go unanswered. This does not sound like a city that is ready to handle emergencies with an aluminum secondary smelter with dangerous equipment, hazardous materials and waste, and toxic emissions. This secondary smelter is a threat to the safety of the community. Please consider filing an injunction to stop this aluminum plant from harming this town and its lovely people. Last thing, I also request an investigation be opened concerning the city manager / police chief, Greg Bolton.
She's good. Huh? That's fun.
Hi, Attorney General Mays. My name is Hoyt Johnson. I'm a resident of Benson, and I stand before you fully aware of the personal and professional risks that come with speaking candidly to you on this matter. I choose to speak up out of a deep conviction that open dialogue is the cornerstone of our democracy. I'm here to offer you facts that provide essential context, trusting that truth and reason will prevail over an aggressively misleading narrative, which uses tactics like this that were nailed or taped up to our mailboxes in my neighborhood yesterday. I believe that what I have to say has an impact not only on me and my family, but on every citizen of Benson and Cochise County, and I just want to give you some facts that I think are well worth considering. ADEQ is still in the process of considering the air permit for ADI. We're all aware of this. More importantly, however, I think the best measure perhaps of how concerning or unconcerning this plant is to all of the area residents comes from the ADEQ site, which has provided info on comments for this air permit, and they deserve mention. Of the 558 total comments, 153 came from Benson. That's only 27% of the total comments, and importantly, only 2.8% of the total population of Benson. 16% of the comments that came were from the remainder of Cochise County. That's 43%. Less than half of the total comments submitted came from within Benson and Cochise County, less than half. The other 57% came from outside, mostly from Pima County, Tucson area. It seems to me the majority of Benson isn't at all concerned, and I appreciate everybody taking their turns.
There's 807 comments now.
Let him speak.
In regards to water use, since you all took your time to speak, in Cochise County, agriculture accounts for 92% of the total water consumption. In the lower San Pedro River Basin, where we are now, total annual water use is approximately 40,000 acre-feet, with 74% of that, roughly 30,000 acre-feet, attributed to agricultural use. This is the same basin that experiences an annual recharge of around 29,000 acre-feet, that's less than just the agricultural demand, indicating ongoing pressure for groundwater resources. The city of Benson's total annual water use is about 1,900 acre-feet annually. We all know that the San Pedro River runs north, meaning downstream effects does not affect areas to the south. And in fact, the San Pedro Riparian National Conservation Area is more than 6 miles south of Benson's southern river boundary, so it really has no impact on that. I could go on and on, but I'll leave it.
Oh, thank you. Just keep on.
Is it okay if I hold it, or do you need help? Okay. First, I want to say thank you so much for being here. I cannot begin to tell you how nice it is that... Is this better? Yeah. Yes. Okay. I first want to say thank you. I cannot begin to tell you how nice it is to feel like we're being heard. The first thing I want to say is that I am not sure that you guys know that this isn't just about ADI. This is also about Union Pacific. And I want to start back a little bit. Union Pacific actually owns the property that this is being built on. If you look at the conditional use permit application, ADI represented that they would be purchasing the property. I asked 4 times in a public records request for the statement of authorization that's required under Benson City Code, saying that ADI had permission to make the application, and it was never provided. To believe that's because it doesn't exist. So I'm not convinced that UP, Union Pacific, that owns the property, actually knows what it is that ADI intends to do on that property. And part of the reason I think that is because ADI insists upon calling this a recycling plant. And if you look at page 4-15, of, which is in section 4.3 of their application, it says that it will be classified as a standard industrial classification code 3341, which is a secondary smelting and refining of non-ferrous metals. So I think it's possible that there's a disconnect, and I have both the lease between ADI and Union Pacific and the conditional use permit application that I'd be happy to give to Ms. Engel. But in the lease that Union Pacific has with ADI, some of the activities that they're going to be doing are precluded by the lease. And so I don't know if Union Pacific even has any idea that this is happening. It's possible that there's like an addendum or something that I was not provided in my public records request, but that's my first concern. My first concern is, has anybody reached out to Union Pacific and said to them, hey, your tenant is potentially going to be committing a nuisance? I think that's a place to start. Now, having said that, I'm also concerned about the water issue, and I'm sure other people are going to talk about the amount of water and all of that. One of the issues that I'm concerned about is the fact that we were told initially that ADI would be using Benson water. Then it started being said that they were going to be using well water. I'm concerned, and I don't know if this is factual, but it is my concern that the move from Benson water to well water is an attempt to do an end run around the 100-year requirements for Benson water. And it doesn't really matter whether it's Benson drawing from the aquifer or ADI drawing from the aquifer. The next thing also has to do with water. If we take too much water, we're going to be running into the problem of subsidence. And we already have fissures in Cochise County. So I'm concerned that what we're looking at is a potentially huge, major industrial accident. And ADI had to give Benson an emergency plan, which is essentially, we're gonna call 911. In my public records request, I asked for what Benson's hazardous material response was, and theirs is, we're gonna call for mutual aid. So I don't think that that's an issue that has been fully thought through, but it is a nuisance issue. And there's several other things that I think need to be raised along those same lines that I have documentation for. And so I would be happy to provide that if anybody wants it. But my time is up.
Thank you.
My name is Casey Townsend. My wife and I moved here 5 years ago when I retired from the city of Tucson to pursue my dream of starting an organic farm. We live 2.5 miles south of the proposed plant location down Highway 80. My research indicates that if this plant were to go in, I may not be able to become organically certified due to the air pollution. there are a lot of issues going on. You've heard about the water issue, which is a huge one, and I understand there's a lawsuit about that. You've also heard about the pollution, but not very much. There's a huge fact sheet of what is going to be emitted from this plant. The fact that they have to require, they're basically applying for a permit to poison us. And there are all... And the fact that the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality cannot, apparently the legislator has made it so that they have to approve a permit. They just have to make sure all the boxes are checked. And maybe if they go over a box or something, they can fine them, but they cannot deny a permit. That seems outrageous to me. And some of these pollutants, if it's an aluminum, a secondary aluminum smelter, not a quote recycling plant. I mean, they're melting these tin cans down with all the labels and inks and everything else on them. That's all going up the smokestack. And with the aluminum dust that's coming out of the smokestack, that stuff does not dissipate. It lands on the ground, it washes into the rivers, and it accumulates every year and gets worse and worse and worse. If this plant goes in, I think that will be the death of Benson and the surrounding area.
At least you're spreading it around.
We have a few plum trees in our starting orchard, but mostly it's produce for farmers markets.
And apples.
Apples, peaches, yeah.
Good evening, Attorney General Mays, and thank you for coming. I'm here tonight to talk about ADI and the threat they bring to our communities. ADI will destroy this town and will significantly change our way of life. I recently sat down with a representative from ADI and discussed water usage. Upon doing the math, it was discovered that ADI will use approximately 70% of the total water the entire town of Benson used in 2024. That breaks down to be 118,935,615 gallons per year. ADI will control the water. Our city officials dropped the ball. They didn't do their research. The few questions that were asked to and answered by ADI themselves. For example, when asked what would be emitted from the stacks, the ADI representative replied, "Warm but clean air." Clean air is very different from the list of dangerous particulate that ADI provided ADEQ for their permit. Perhaps they knew they couldn't fool them. The city welcomed ADI with open arms and did not weigh out the consequences. They didn't even bother to ask for stipulations or protections for the future. The citizens of Cochise County are the ones doing the research. They are the ones attending ADEQ meetings. There were 2 ADEQ meetings and only 1 council member attended one of those meetings. Why is that? The citizens are the ones contacting hydrologists, geologists, and neurologists and educating themselves. The city is not. Why is that? They have essentially given ADI free rein and the keys to the city, offering up massive amounts of water before even knowing how much water they had available. They didn't consider the dangerous particulate that would be released into the community. They didn't consider that the particulate would settle on the ground and ultimately leach into the surface water. They didn't consider that the particulate would be landing on farm fields and be eaten by livestock. They didn't consider that the school is less than a mile away, or even the nursing home, it's only a few hundred yards away. They didn't consider the river or the possibility of it becoming polluted. The surface water along the river next to the site is very shallow. People living near the river have 100-foot wells with standing water at 20 feet. ADI plans to go 90 feet into the ground with their smelter stack. ADI explains that essentially there will be a thick protection barrier such as concrete and steel to prevent leakage, and all smeltering will be done around 40 feet. However, a company with 90+ violations in the last 4 years doesn't build confidence for me. This is a very emotional and heated topic for this community, but for me it's very simple. I feel that everyone would agree that clean air and clean water are essential and not replaceable. Science has proven that the air we breathe and the water we drink matters. Then why is the city inviting a company that threatens to destroy those things? At this time, could I have everyone that opposes the aluminum plant to please stand? There is no argument we as a community and everyone in this room would be safer without ADI in this town. Thank you for taking the time to visit our town and listen to us tonight. We finally feel that we are being heard. We need a champion, a fighter, someone who is not afraid. We need you, Attorney General, to ask the tough questions. And get to your answers. Thank you for your time.
Somebody can tell the truth.
Hi, Lowell Howe, longtime Benson resident. I want to say thank you very much for coming because I believe in my heart this is not a red or blue issue. It is a health issue, it is a Benson issue.
Yeah.
Secondly, I am just bursting with pride as so many of my fellow citizens who have done their research. Part of the problem is none of this was ever explained to anybody. And unless you went online and downloaded an exhaustive 57-page package of information that they supplied to apply for their permit, then you were flying blind. But you knew somehow this had to be wrong, and it's not a good fit for a bedroom community. In fact, all you really need to look at in the report is section 7.1. There's a little chart. It shows significant impact likely. For all the pollutants they are going to admit, only one, I think it was carbon monoxide, wasn't going to provide significant impact in a local area. But NOx, and my biggest problem is the particulate matter. The dust ranging from 2.5 microns, which is microscopic. We were all going to be breathing it, all our pets, the birds in the trees, everybody's subject to this. The 10-micron particles, which will be heavy and may be instituted probably to try and catch some of the smaller particles and drop them sooner. But either way, the 10-micron stuff, significant impact likely zone is out to 1.9 kilometers radius, the entire area around that plant, because the wind does not blow one direction, does it? The rain doesn't even fall straight down here. The wind blows all over the place. So 1.9 kilometer radius for the 10 micron, the big visible particulate matter. But the 2.5 micron dust is significant impact likely out to 6 kilometers. So yes, upriver into the conservation area is at risk. Cascabel is at risk. The reservation is at risk, and eventually Phoenix's water will be at risk as well. Right now, we're only dealing with the air pollution because they're still trying to apply for their air permit. So I think we should just stick to that. But all you need to know is nothing should breathe aluminum dust. Look it up. There have been lots of studies in that regard. And in fact, some geniuses in Australia thought they might cure black lung disease with miners if they made them all breathe aluminum dust. Like that was bringing the coal dust out. In fact, 1,500 people died a lot quicker than they would have just from black lung. And they suffered from cardiovascular disease, pulmonary fibrosis, and early dementia. There's nothing good about this. I salute anybody who wants to recycle. We need to get on that. We've been saving crap for 50 years. I would love to see it, but not in the middle of my town. Not right across the street from a hospice care where the people deserve to die in dignity. That's the whole idea of the place. They shouldn't be subjected. Just that alone is enough to say, no way.
My name is Susan Adams. I've lived here for 30 years. I too am a cancer survivor. I am extremely concerned about this plant. I am in close proximity in terms of nuisance ever since they started building, and I couldn't figure out where the sound was coming from. I've been listening to beep, beep, beep all night with the construction stuff going. All night. Suddenly, I realized that I, for some reason, left my blinds open, and my room was bright, lit up. And I looked out, and oh my gosh, there's a fire over there. Where is that? And I couldn't figure it out, and it didn't actually look quite like a fire. It was their security lamps, and it was shining right in my bedroom. I consider that a nuisance. Okay, then I went online after the ADQ meeting, and I tried to find out something about their Mexican facility that they were sort of modeling this on. And it was interesting, it's, at least at that time, I'm not saying I've gone back and revisited, it was not available. There was nothing available about that particular, I can't remember how they put it, but that business, that site. So I find it very, very odd also you couldn't get any information about the one that they were supposed to be doing so well, modeling this one after.
My name is Young Mayberry. I'm a descendant of the original founders of this place in St. David in 1877. Predates Benson, Tombstone, Bisbee. All right? I served 28 years in the United States Air Force, and I came back home. I didn't intend to come back home to have the place turn into what it looks like it might turn into. My headline comment is this. We've heard all of the pollution issues, the water issues. I'm a farmer right now. Water is a very key issue for me. My headline point is this. You don't build your outhouse in the middle of the kitchen. It's already been pointed out how close this facility is intended to be to Keebury, the nursing home, to this school, 1.5 miles, the hospital a little bit further. You don't build your outhouse in the middle of your kitchen. We do need to recycle. This is not the place. If you're going to do that, use that kind of water, you need to go someplace where there's more water. We pay in the St. David Irrigation District, which includes Palmerine downriver, okay, $6,000 a month to be able to defend ourselves against with the adjudication with the waters that go down into the Phoenix area and the tribes. I'll tell you this, it's the Phoenix area, not so much the tribes anymore. Okay? So why should we pay that kind of money to have an entity come in here and suck the water out from under us, under the so-called 100-year water supply of Benson, when we, as agriculturalists, are paying $6,000 a month to preserve our water? Okay? So I'll end with this. You don't build your outhouse in the middle of the kitchen.
Thank you, Attorney General Mays, for coming to Little Benson. We all want to hear our voice, and the majority of our community wants to be heard. It seems that our Planning and Zoning Committee that was approved by our city of Benson should also be looked into and investigated. I can't even tell you how many sponsored events Aluminum Dynamic has sponsored the city of Benson. It's disgusting. It's like, how many zeros is it enough? How many events, how many lantern festivals do you need funded by this pollutant, by this cancer causing? We have families here. We have long-standing families that have ranches in Cascabel. They can't get online. Mr. Johnson, Hoyt Johnson, they can't get online to file a sponsored comment from the last one because they're 80. They have no idea what's going on right now. In their community, in their backyard, saying, I can't believe I voted in for this city council member who's just rubber stamped everything. People that they see every day going to Safeway. And it's like, These are your neighbors. You're poisoning your neighbors. Shame. Where is your dignity? Where's your shame? How much money is enough? How much money do they need to pay the city of Benson to make it okay? Are you going to go fund somebody else's cancer treatments? Our schools here. Are you going our board members, school board members, okayed and rubber stamp this from happening? Hold them accountable. Yeah.
Thank you for coming. My name is Diane Moore. I wrote this before also, and I think you mentioned, but I would ask you to propose legislation that if a project in a town is so many miles from the county, they need to be notified and have a say in what comes into the town. I live in the county, and I have no say in this matter. When I can see the work being done from my front yard on my lot. This week, they are still digging the hole and have dump trucks watering their roads. My main concern is the pollution from the wind. Wind is not stationary, and now we have 3 months of above average wind, like in March, which used to be called March winds. Besides polluting the water and the soil, cadmium could be released in the air, which causes respiratory problems, heart problems, and cancer from the processed aluminum. Not enough research has been done by the Benson town officials on any of these matters. I was told by a city council member that ADI said it would transport 100% by rail. Now I hear it is 90%. Did they get anything in writing? And why did they just put up new stoplights on Patagonia higher than the previous ones? My question is it in anticipation that more semi-trucks and dump trucks are coming through town? Then the city mayor said and they have no say in ADI coming to town. So why are they rolling out the red carpet for them at every turn? The mayor at one city council said over a welding company coming to town, quote, "Can't we rush this in," unquote. I just wonder, did they do that with ADI, and were any rules broken? I would ask you to investigate those in charge of Benson and go back at least 18 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General, for coming down. I don't live in Benson. I used to be on the city council until December of this last year. I'm going to come at this from a little bit different perspective. I absolutely, unequivocally do not want this to come into town. I resigned from city council because I moved out of city limits at that time. The only information that I had on ADI, I knew that they were looking at coming to Benson, but I was under the impression that they were still trying to decide whether or not Benson was a good fit. Come to find out that by the time I had resigned on December 13th, that their conditional use permit had already been issued without notifying all members of the council. There's been a document that's gone around about a meeting that happened last summer with 3 of the council members, some school officials, hospital officials, that they were in the loop. Everybody else was out of the loop because it seemed like they wanted this to come in under the radar. I want to say I come up here, I've been attacked personally by several members of the city council, and so this gives me a little bit of hesitation to come up here, but I, again, live downriver. I live downriver. We just built a house out in Pomeroy, just north of town, which would be downriver, unlike what was said earlier. I have 3 beautiful daughters who this is going to affect. I am 5th generation Benson resident. Like Mr. Mayberry over here, my family was one of the founders of this valley. Sorry to get emotional here. I also have some, noise was brought up at the construction site. While I was on council, we passed an ordinance that prohibits construction noise from the hours of 10 to 6, so it disturbs me that this is not being enforced. Also, the police force, which is weird to me, I just found out is being hired out like a private security firm. There's an officer posted there 24/7. Apparently we're being reimbursed, but I'm not sure that that's totally accurate. And then, there was a document that went around about the nuisance law. This would bring about, from my understanding, 70 to 80 semi-trucks down 4th Street, which is Highway 80 per day, 24/7. I invite you to come down during the wintertime when all of the winter visitors come, because traffic through town is already horrible, and we don't need to add 70 to 80 semi-trucks to the streets. Our streets are already horrible. I can't imagine what 70 to 80 semi-trucks a day down that would happen. In my opinion, this was done very secretively, under the radar, coming from a city council member who was out of the loop. Like I said, when I resigned on December 13th, I was not aware that they had been issued their conditional use permit. And I was told that they were still in the process of even determining whether this was a suitable location. So I ask you to investigate that, and there's some other concerning things that have come up. I'm sure you've received lots of complaints, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
My name is Nicole Buchanowski. I think I'm right on the edge of being in city limits or not, but I'm only about 2 miles from this location, and I can see all of it from my house. I can see the lights shining across. I'm up on a hill, so I can see the lights shining across at night. I can even hear the trucks beeping, because the way sound travels in this valley, as you guys probably know, sound travels. We get the wind that just kind of holds things in the air in here. And that's from 2 miles. The river, the other thing is with the increased truck traffic that they're talking about. I don't know, I know you said you went over and saw the site. Did you come back through town where it curves over that bridge?
Yes.
So that area, if you're coming up from under it into town, that's already kind of sketchy. I almost had a semi merge into me today from that. So think about that times 70, 80 trucks a day. And then throw in the snowbirds when they come back to you. This is not something we want. Another thing to think about is, did you hear about, probably about a week-ish or so ago, maybe a little more, we had an incident, a hazmat incident over on the 90. A semi-truck carrying fuel, I believe it was diesel, tipped over and spilled on the 90. Yeah, shut down the whole Highway 90 northbound. And we had to call in from out of the county to get that taken care of. We're about to be having a whole literal hazmat building built, and we do not have the facilities to handle that, as far as if an emergency were to happen, or should I say, unfortunately, when an emergency is to happen. And the other thing I just want to bring up that no one's really mentioned much, so my degree is in natural resources. This is something that means a whole lot to me. This area, we get a lot of important species in this area, a lot of actually protected species. And a lot of them call that river home. A lot of them just call this area in general home. So that's something to look at too from that. And I'm sorry, I get really nervous. People, I can't.
Hi, my name is Nancy Casarella. I've lived here about 20 years, but I've been in Arizona since about 75. One thing they haven't mentioned is that we already have a very serious problem in Cochise County, and that's the next valley over, the Sulphur Springs Valley, and they've had a giant dairy I can't even remember, like 650,000 cows. They've dug like 400 wells. The people of Wilcox and other places were kind of fooled into not getting legislation passed that would have protected their water rights. People's wells are going dry, and we drive that way and we see the roads have big fissures in them and signs everywhere. So basically, it's not like we're just imagining that this could happen here, because it already happened and is happening here. And how these people want to make a quick buck here, maybe, I don't know who gets paid when they do all this stuff and the construction and all, but it's not worth it to us to risk our water, our air, our health, our old people, our young people. We want to protect, we want to live in a clean, beautiful little town that we've enjoyed for many years. And it's like they're gonna put like a nuclear bomb in the middle of it, is what we feel like. The other thing is, it's a worldwide known area for birding here. People come, I mean, my cousin from Louisiana comes on tours here with her groups, and we don't want to ruin the place for the coatimundi and all the beautiful birds and all the wildlife. We've even had jaguars within 10 miles of here. And so winter visitors, winter visitors are not gonna wanna come. They're not gonna wanna have any more balloon festivals, that's for sure. I mean, lantern, I always call them. So anyway, we just are very thankful that you came and listened to us, and that this is really close to all of our hearts.
Hi, my name is Michael Borland, and we moved here from Illinois 3 years ago to escape just the sort of pollution and reduced quality of life that this plant will bring. This plant will be across the road from a rehab facility and hundreds of homes with families. Building an industrial plant in such an area is entirely inappropriate. How will people sleep with industrial activity going on 24 hours a day? Benson is in a basin. You probably saw that when you drove in here. The pollution and the smells from this plant will collect here. They won't dissipate. This is just not appropriate for a rural area. We live here to enjoy the clean air and to escape the pollution that comes from development of this type. Light pollution is also an ongoing problem here in the city that the city government has failed to control. The glare and the light dome from Benson are visible all over the county. They've watered down the county ordinances to the point that they're useless, and this 24/7 facility will make this far worse. Being able to enjoy dark skies in a rural area is a major hit on, being unable to enjoy the dark skies of this rural area is going to be a major hit on our quality of life. We also have an ongoing water shortage in this area, and dry and polluted wells will be a major issue for people who can't afford to move or to drill a deeper well. This is, again, the wrong place for a water-hungry industry. So I urge you to do what our local government could not do and protect Cochise County from this plant. I also urge you to investigate whether the city government violated a law, for example, by failing to provide adequate notice prior to granting a zoning variance, among other issues. I hope that a thorough and independent environmental impact review can be performed at a minimum, because we shouldn't have to fight the nuisances after they've been created. They should be stopped before they happen. Thank you very much for being here and for listening to us.
We'll come back.
Good evening, Attorney General Kris, and welcome to Benson, Arizona. My name is Christy Bloom. I want to thank you for taking the time to come to our small but growing agricultural community. We are small, a quiet, lesser-known, beautiful pocket of our unique state of Arizona. Being a small town has its benefits, a quiet quality of life, an escape from the hustle and bustle of big cities. But when facing an industrial giant like Aluminum Dynamics, our smallness puts us in a vulnerable position to big industry. Due to our size, our message was difficult to get out, but make no mistake, we are small but mighty, and we appreciate the values you demonstrate by coming here and hearing our concerns. Aluminum Dynamics is a subsidiary of Steel Dynamics, the #4 steel producer in the U.S. For some strange reason, Aluminum Dynamics thought it was a good idea to build its 218-acre facility on the base of the San Pedro River, right across the street, as you've heard, from a nursing home, an apartment complex, a densely populated residential area. It will be built a mile away from Benson schools and parks where children learn and play. Almost daily, I see the dust from my balcony where the plant will be built. I've taken pictures of thick dust while traveling on Highway 80, lingering in the neighborhoods from site work being done, and even reported the dust to ADEQ. I was told by ADEQ I'd have to catch them in the act to be able to do anything. The ADEQ permit application submitted by Aluminum Dynamics shows the potential to emit over 100 tons per year of hazardous air pollutants, which makes the company's chosen location for their plant unconscionable. We, the residents of Benson, should not be forced to suffer the effects of this plant's emissions and astounding water usage for a measly 90 jobs, many of which will be granted to residents in other towns, such as Tucson, Wilcox, or Sierra Vista. If the ADEQ's response regarding dust is, we have to catch them in the act, who will catch them in the act when the plant gets older and emissions grow worse? This plant will be a public nuisance and danger to our health and home values. Furthermore, you'll notice in Benson we have a main road in town that turns into Highway 80. There are already many accidents on this road and on the stretch of I-10 to Tucson. The plant would be located right where Highway 80 begins at the end of town. Trucks turning left into the plant will be required to yield to oncoming traffic, causing them to stop, which would back up traffic into our town. Further evidence of this proposed public nuisance. I have asked city council members at meetings how much time it would take to evacuate this town should an accident, such as a fire or spill, occur. I have yet to get an answer, but I feel the people of Benson deserve to know. We have a volunteer fire department. There are many such accidents at recycling facilities in the news, but we are remote and ill-equipped. Lastly, this facility will house hazardous chemicals. If there was a spill or contamination into the river, it would travel upriver for miles, harming other communities. I remember when the Animas River was contaminated in Colorado, and it made national news. Please show the people of Arizona that you are not willing to gamble with protecting communities and wildlife, home values, and water. We at Health Over Wealth Benson have never been anti-industry. We just want responsible industry. From one mom to another, I ask you to please stop this plant. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Daniel Davenport. I want to thank you for coming here today and giving us at least a glimmer of hope that this plant, which is definitely a public nuisance, that you could attack it that way. I have also been looking at doing some research, and it seems that an environmental impact statement is not technically required, but I think that if there's any way, we should be able to demand a full environmental impact statement before this goes ahead, because there's just so many questions and so much false data. I live outside the town of Benson, but I am 9/10 of a mile from the proposed plant right across the river. In the riparian area, we have 4 acres of land covered with birds, hundreds of quail, and it's been my dream. My wife and I have built our house ourselves with our own hands, and it's been my dream to sit on my porch and die watching the sunset. But the only blessing here is that we get so much dust normally that you can write your name in the dust on a piano after 2 days. Dust 2 days later, you can write your name in it. With all that aluminum dust, the only blessing is that when I die sitting on my porch, I'll be such a vegetable from dementia that I will mistake the 2 100-foot smokestacks for trees. Thank you.
We have about 25 minutes left, so just keep that in mind when we're making comments.
Thank you.
I'm Mark with the IBW Local 570. And I just want, I know it's going to go a little bit against the grain tonight, but we represent over 1,000 electricians working for Tucson Electric Power, the various electrical co-ops here. So basically when these lights turn on, there's about 1,000 people behind this light bulb that are members that are putting it to, that are making it work. I will tell you that some of our folks that are here in this audience are very shy, but they came in from Yuma to be here because it means that much to them. They did that because there's no jobs left here. If you're not working at the Border Patrol Station in Douglas or Nogales or driving all the way to Tucson where there's only a limited number of jobs, you're on the road. Our 5-year apprenticeship, our electricians are very proud of who they are, what they've trained to become, what they do every day. But right now, they just can't feed their families. They're on the road 5-6 hours a day. There are some ideas that I think need to be fleshed out here, but we think that this can be built safely, on time, under budget, and by union electricians.
There's no jobs there either. While we're getting to the next, I want to say something about, I actually used to be, some of you know, I used to be an Arizona Corporation Commissioner, and it struck me in listening to all of you so far. So one of the things that, and some of you know, I'm not a big fan of well, I wouldn't say I'm not a big fan of utilities, but I was tough on utilities when I was a Corporation Commissioner. And I have intervened against the proposed TEP and APS rate increases recently, but that's not my point. My point is this. One of the things that the utilities and the Corporation Commission did do well, that I think we're not doing well statewide, and this situation is a very good example of that, is that when you want to build a power plant or a transmission line in the state of Arizona, Mark, yeah, Mark knows this too. You have to go through what's called the Power Plant and Transmission Line Siting Committee. Many of you probably have never heard of that. But it's a really important body that has like 12 members on it, and it's very public. And if a utility wants to build a big power plant, it has to go through that body, which has 12 people who decide whether or not the project can be built, where the utility wants to build it, and whether it's appropriate there. And there are environmental experts on that committee, etc. And then that decision has to go up to the Arizona Corporation Commission for a final decision by all 5 elected commissioners. So that is a very different process than the one that we are seeing in multiple communities, and why I am finding myself on the front lines of this issue trying to use nuisance law, which is these companies can come into communities, and sometimes the communities are undermatched for these proposals, right? And so there's no body, and I'm not suggesting there should be a power plant line setting committee for these kinds of projects, but what I'm suggesting is that that kind of vetting happens for utility infrastructure, and it's not happening for these kinds of projects. And that is something that we need to grapple with as a state more broadly, because whether or not we can use nuisance law in this situation, this is going to continue to happen throughout the state of Arizona. And whoever is the Attorney General may or may not decide to enforce nuisance law, right? Obviously, I have decided to do that. So anyway, sorry, that's an aside. I'll let you go back. Let's go back to the comments.
My name is Dawn Davis, and I moved here a couple of years ago.
Can't hear you.
I moved here a couple of years ago from Tucson, and prior to that, I lived there for about 8 years, and then before that, I lived in Denver most of my adult life. And what I can tell you is that I absolutely love where I live at. I don't want to move. I have asthma. I've had asthma since birth. And if this plant comes in here, it's going to cause nothing but issues for people like myself who have lung problems. When I think about all the issues that are happening, when I first started coming to these meetings in June, there were 3 of us in June. You can see what's happened in the last 4 or 5 months, right? And that's a huge thing because a lot of us had no clue that this was even going on. It was quite by accident that I found out, and a couple of other people that were there with me, we made the effort to get this word out to all of our neighbors, to all of our friends, to all of the people at Walmart and Safeway and everywhere else that we could think of. If we can't get it through with the air issue, because ADEQ has completely noted that they have never denied a permit, ever. They will work with the company until all the boxes are checked and all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted in order for them to be able to pass it. Then it has to go to the EPA. Well, right now, with everything that's happening in the government upstairs, who knows if the EPA is even going to be existing in the next few months, right? My other issue with that whole thing is I was coming back from Sierra Vista a few weeks ago, and I shared this the last time that I spoke. When I got to about mile marker 295, between 295 and 300, you can see the whole entire valley, and it's so beautiful on a clear day. A couple days later, or maybe it was a couple days before, we had a major dust storm. The whole entire valley was covered for 2 days. You know, and if that happens with ADI, we're going to have a major, major problem because that's not going to blow out of here, to sit here on our community. Now, if we can't get them out of here with ADEQ, we need to be looking at ADWR. We're getting 14% of our water from the Colorado River, and that's drying up. And the governor, I just read this today, the governor here in Arizona decided it was okay to use the Colorado River and one of the resources, some kind of a lake or a reservoir or something, to support a small housing community outside of Phoenix. We're a small community here. All of us love where we live. None of us want to move that I'm aware of, and none of us want to have to pay the taxes that are going to happen if we have to move. You know, it's a sad state of affairs that our city government has put us into. And without giving us advance notice, they've basically lowballed, I mean, just slapped us upside the head without us even knowing, you know. So, without further ado, here's my question for you. What can you do for us? What can you do to help us? We need help. Please. Yeah, thank you.
Let's get some more. I think we've got about 15, 20 minutes left. I want to stay as long as we possibly can, and I will come back to your question about what I can do and what our next steps are.
Hey there, can you hear? There you go, you can hear me, right? Yep. Thank you so much for coming to our awesome little town. We really appreciate it. My name's Julie, and me and my husband are here. We've been here for, I don't know, a little over 25 years, and totally love it, by the way. But talking about nuisance, so we'll focus on that first, however. I'd like to snowball on what Mr. Judd, the council member, said. We did not know about this. I mean, we don't drive to St. David very often. And so we didn't know. We didn't get it in electric bills because we pay online. We didn't get it in the newspaper because it was listed in Sierra Vista. You know, we didn't get it, where was the other, posting at the post office because our mail is delivered. So how would we know other than all these people? This is how we found out. Another issue that we kind of thought was interesting was, I'd like to expand on why it shouldn't be here specifically, because everybody else is touching on all the other stuff. So our valley is about 19 miles wide from east to west, all right? It's over 600 foot deep, dropping in from east about 6 miles out. It's over 1,200 foot heading, west. It's 600 foot west and 1,200 foot to I-10 elevation heading to the east. But the mountains add an additional almost 7,000 feet, enveloping our valley, our San Pedro River Valley. So if these emissions, these toxic persistent chemicals, distribute along the valley over the 19-mile radius, they are evacuated from this valley by one river system. Only one valley, all the way from J6 all the way out to Dragoon, evacuates everything out of this valley. So if that would be okay if we weren't so deep, let's say, but their stack is 80 to 100 feet, or multiple stacks. Now, if you just go 1.5 miles over here to the church on the hill, that church is 300 feet. So that would be 200 feet over in elevation to the stacks. And that's only less than 1.5 miles. So then also in consideration with that, with the wind effect, if you live in this valley and you leave in the winter, or you come home in the winter, and everybody's got their fire burning, the whole valley holds the smoke in because of inversion. So our valley is cool every night and cold in the winter. So the inversion will hold all of that emission, not allowing it to distribute. Then add on top of that the monsoon. So what does get distributed over this 19-mile radius, the monsoon's gonna wash into the San Pedro River Valley, both north and south, because obviously there's a wide radius, wash it downriver, and could create an acute, environmental crisis. Everything else you guys have been touching on, but I thought I'd just bring that up. Thank you.
My name is Debbie Bratz. I've lived here for 15 years, and I was on planning and zoning for 4 years. And I am absolutely appalled at the way they handled this without letting people know. When I was on P&Z, everybody was notified multiple ways, and I think this is unforgivable. And it's the same thing for the city council. Shame on them. And while I was on P&Z, one of the big things that we tackled was the lighting. And we spent months and months and months getting it settled so that they would not have these lights. It was how much a gas station could have on lighting, how much everything. We had it all worked out. And they've already blown off a lot of that stuff. But to accept that you are going to have the lighting like that is outrageous. People count on us for our Arizona dark skies, and we are ruining it. It is not just Arizona, it is not just this country. People around the world use our observatories for scientific research, and when we screw up with the lighting like this, that is destroyed, and those people don't have access to what they need. I think that's terrible. On a more personal note, I moved here to be with my folks. People moved here because they want a quiet environment. They don't want to live in a big city with big lights. They don't want a lot of traffic. We don't want our roads destroyed by huge trucks and having a difficulty even to get through town. We want it to be a quiet, safe environment. And I don't want this to come in and destroy it.
I've lived here, I'm 73, I've lived here 71 years. My main focus is going to be water. And the first thing just came up this evening about the ADI wanting to drill a well. And oddly enough, I went and spoke with Hoyt Johnson in the blue shirt over there, and I asked him specifically if they were going to drill a well, and I got an argument for him. This is the guy that says he's open to dialogue. He's deceitful, he's argumentative.
He's here to listen to you. He is a former city councilman.
No, I'm not. She's here to listen to you.
You're talking about what?
Okay, so you mentioned about this valley. How big is it? Our aquifer goes from the Dragoons to the Whetstones. It goes around the J6. It goes north to the Narrows, which is just about Cascabel, and it goes to Highway 83, which goes through Whetstone down here. And we have had wells going out at the J6 ranchettes for about 2 decades ago. They had to be moved or drilled deeper. And up on this end, at the Dragoon turnoff, we've got Triple Angle T, and we've got Amarin Foundation. Their wells have gone dry. Amarin Foundation has a pipe that goes into Dragoon to give them water. We used to have artesian wells all over this valley, specifically the hill with the tank on it, just the other side of that, where Lake Drive is. That was a huge artesian well lake. And we had some on the other side of the tracks also, including where the gas plant used to be, and all there are now are just dead trees. The next thing about artesian wells is they get their hydraulic pressure from the deep aquifer, and they rise up to the San Pedro surface flow aquifer, so they are connected. And we've had all these wells going dry, and even along the spring bed, their monitoring wells are dropping, and one of them has gone dry, and it's right next to the river. ADI wants to use cooling towers. Cooling towers work on evaporation, so that means every bit of water that they pump out is going to be evaporated and blown away, and it's going to rain down somewhere, but it's lost to our valley forever. And the water that they use to cool off their ingots is going to be, again, evaporated out, and gone. And I understand that they are going to use almost as much water as the entire city uses every year. And our wells are going dry. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
How do you like that? He worked hard for that. And I gave it to him.
She's a good speaker.
Yeah, she's
General Mays, thank you for taking the time to travel here to Benson. Thank you for hosting this town hall and allowing us the opportunity to voice our concerns. My name is Kristen Bidigan, and I live here in Benson with my husband and 2 children. Benson is a special rural town with a beautiful small town atmosphere. I feel strongly that if this aluminum plant were to go in, it would greatly interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life. The hazardous air pollutants that would be emitting from 5 stacks 24/7 will be injurious to our health. The odor of hydrochloric acid or hydrogen chloride will be offensive to the senses. And I think you should know that when ADI tried to set up in the previous rural town of Gila Bend, there were a couple stipulations specifically about hydrogen chloride and the odor that they would not agree to. So not only would we have to smell the offensive odor, it will also be harming us. The lack of oversight requiring environmental studies, given this location's proximity to the San Pedro River and vulnerable populations, is nothing short of indecent. As you've heard multiple times tonight, all of us we had no idea about this up until probably maybe in June, around the summer. And then we had our city manager on the news media saying, all permits are in place, it's a done deal. So that piqued my interest, going, how did this transpire? After doing numerous public records requests, we have some major issues going on here at our local government level and at the county level. Just a couple I wanted to touch on really quick, where that original 300-foot notice letter that went out, it listed 10 parcels when in reality it became 7. It says it was going to be a special exception request when really it was a conditional use permit. But with this letter, what I really wanted to touch on was that nursing home that you saw today and those apartment complexes that are directly closest to this site, with the exception of a few private residences. The property owners received notice, but the tenants and the residents of the nursing home had no idea. They still might not know. That seems like a huge environmental injustice. When the county's development planner put on the EDI show for the city of Benson's planning and zoning, you know, she mentioned that in addition to the notification letter going out, there was the posted sign on the property. Again, this is an error that it says 10 parcels instead of 7, yada yada. Touch with that sign, I have it printed out here. It was posted on one of the parcels that wasn't even contained in the conditional use permit. And this is posted on a dead-end road that leads to a rail storage yard.
Oh, is that where it
No one would see this unless you worked on these rail cars. It's a dead-end, short road here. Okay. Here's the conditional use permit. It lists the zoning as light industrial. It's heavy industrial. Here's the letter. Here's the letter, I think someone else mentioned, where our police department is being assigned to provide security for ADI 24/7. It's not signed by our chief of police. All of a sudden, we have an interim chief of police. Outside of that, there's a whole lot more, and I can give you the list. But I do feel bad for our planning and zoning commission that I do feel like, to some sense, you know, the Cochise County developmental director came in and presented this. That would be like your boss recommending for you what to do. We had ADI representatives saying, you know, it's all about just the building being 88 feet tall, and oh, there's one water tower. They left off the mention of the 5 stacks at 100 feet tall. No mention at all. They say we have a pretty good record of building facilities. They failed to mention their record of adhering to the Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act. So it goes on and on. Ultimately, ADI preyed on our rural town, and we were the perfect victim. A desperate, incompetent city government who's obviously easily bought. Money talks louder to our local leaders than the safety and health of the people who live here. We were unknowingly sold. Please file an injunction to stop this plant from harming our future, and please restore law and order at our city and county government level.
Dan Moore. Yeah, basically, I just moved here 5 years ago, and I grew up in the valley, similar geographically to this. It started out as an orchard. We got a bunch of machinery manufacturers and so forth. By the time I graduated high school, you could literally see the brown smog at the top of the ridge. That's where a lot of my neighbors and I live, up on that ridge, and it's a beautiful place. You wake up in the morning, you see the fog in the valley over the river, and it's just an abomination of what's going on in this community where they didn't notify us. And you know, it's a wonderful place to live, and it should be preserved and really treated as the precious jewel that it is. But one thing I did want to say is that if you look at the executive summary that the city council made up in 2008, they quoted Benson, or they found that Benson would be an ideal transportation hub, which it would be the way it sits, the railroad, the I-10 and so forth. What they ought to do is convince ADI to put the smelter, oh, don't call it a smelter, the melter of aluminum that produces mercury gas, which will carry for 20, 30 miles, not just 2 or 3 miles. Put it out like by Bowie or something. Pass the road guys. Make this just a transfer station. There's still going to be a lot of the I-10 and the railroad.
Put it in Missouri. Mississippi.
Thank you, General Kris Mays. I just want to ring your bell real quick. Please don't let this aluminum plant come into Benson. And the reason why is because it would cough out hundreds of tons of toxic air pollution every year, and that's nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and fine particulates small enough to sneak straight into your lungs. And we're not stopping there. You know, they would put out 500,000 tons of CO2 per year. That's a lot of stuff. That's like the same as strapping more than 100,000 cars onto our valley roads. Let's talk about the water real quick. These smelters are thirstier than a cattle drive in July, up to 2 to 4 million gallons per day. That's not just numbers on a page. That's water pumped right out of the aquifer that keeps the San Pedro River alive. And the San Pedro River isn't just some muddy little stream, okay? It's one of the last free-flowing rivers in the entire Southwest, and it supports more than 400 bird species. That's about 40% of all migratory birds. And, you know, they stop here in North America, right in the San Pedro Valley, and to refuel. And if you cut that river back, you don't just dry up cottonwoods and willows, you choke out eagles, hawks, hummingbirds, and the very heartbeat of this land. And what about us, Benson? Don't you think we'll be spared? No, we won't. Property values near the plants like this drop 5 to 15%, and dust and noise push families away, so schools lose enrollments, and the only thing that grows are cases of asthma, heart disease, and cancer. That fine particulate dust don't ride back out once it gets in your lungs, and this company will, you know, make their profits and right out of town at some point. And we're going to be left holding the bag. The smokestacks, the poison skies, and a river turned to dust. So here's the deal. You can build another plant somewhere else, but you can't rebuild a river once it's gone, and you can't buy back clean air, and you can't drink empty promises. So please, we're hoping that you will do everything you can to stop this polluting industry for our town. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Skolkin. I live across the river from the plant site. In fact, my property crosses the river and abuts it. We share the same floodplain and riverbed. I have 9 children, 5 at home, and they have all been raised on this land and know the wind currents, wildlife, and nature of the river better than most. This project is very concerning to me in multiple ways. There are only studies on the ill effects of the emissions at 1 year. Some of my children have asthma. There are no long-term studies and nothing on any of the effects though we know that these emissions are neurotoxic and carcinogenic forever chemicals. Let me give an example. I have naturally occurring pond. My well is only 100 feet deep. How long will it take before the emissions that settle on my ground sink into my soil and then my water? What will be the neurotoxic and carcinogenic effects be on my children drinking and bathing in this water? The plant will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our homes, our cars, our children, our animals, and ourselves will be covered in it. During dust devils, the windy season and haboobs, they will lift and swirl and travel again. Every time my son or grandchildren stick their fingers in their little mouths, they will be ingesting these forever chemicals that have the capability of crossing into their bloodstreams. I am a homesteader. I raise my own meat, milk, and eggs. Will we find children, the wildlife, or the cattle? This is a cattle community surrounded by ranches. The cattle are mostly range-fed. They will be eating and sleeping and swimming and rolling in this for 2 to 5 years. Then they'll be sent to the market, and the meat will be distributed all over the country. What effects may that be on the meat and the people who eat it? And when that comes out, the effect on the cattle industry in southern Arizona. We already have a Superfund site in St. David. Apache Powder had to dig wells for our close neighbors, and all the new wells have strict regulations for depth and solid casings to prevent more cancers. We have a cancer cluster there. I lost 3 friends. In 20 years, will I hear that my friends are all sick in a community that I love? I won't stay to see it because I'll not risk the health of my children despite my love for this community that has been so good to me. ADI plowed an area that has 4 critically endangered protected species, but who is protecting them? They destroyed the protected habitat, and fish and game were made aware by the members of the community. What will be the effects on the wildlife in the river as these particles wash immediately? Public safety aspect as well as playing a little devil's advocate. The location that they've chosen is risky. They're merging fault lines and a floodplain and no bedrock. Anyone who's ridden a horse and fallen up to the shores, either in an air pocket or quicksand, can tell you that, as well as our own Tom Olson, a geologist that has been appealing to the common sense in that regard. He also says that the ground is shifting pretty quickly in this area. In one of the diagrams for the permit, the application clearly says not to be built on a floodplain. Why? Well, aluminum dust is flammable when wet. The depth that they have to dig for the smelter is very unstable and wet, and the bars that they will be producing are, I believe, 30,000 pounds. The risk of a flammable accident in a thirsty desert in a residential area with an underfunded fire department is irresponsible. The fire plan that was accepted by the city called 911. You're not a firefighter. There is no evacuation plan in case of fire with a nursing home, school, and hospital nearby, or in case of a chemical spill that could kill many people before help is even called, never mind arrives. Our most recent hazmat cleanup required departments to come from Phoenix, and a recent semi-fire had to be burned. In recent years, my land is covered in fissures, the size of refrigerators. If we don't have water now for a fire, in a few years, this town will be toast without a miracle. How many levels does this have to be concerning before immediate and long-term for somebody in authority to just say no? No, you will not destroy the health and welfare of the people of Benson for ill-gotten gains.
So the first thing that I would like to ask you to do, we were trying to take notes, and you saw me taking notes, and Kirsten taking notes. What I'd like you to do, if it's not too much trouble, is if you spoke tonight or you wanted to speak tonight and you couldn't, I want you to go to my website, the Attorney General's website. It's www.azag.gov. And write out your comments and your contact information. So what you need to do is just go to the complaints section and then environmental protection. So if you could do that, that would be great. We think we got your names, but we're not sure. And that may become very important to me, depending on what we decide we can do here, okay? So one of the things, for instance, when we filed, yes ma'am. Okay, if you don't have internet, we will get you before we leave, right now. Sure, it's www.azag.gov. And it's complaints and environmental protection.
You can also come up to me if you spoke tonight and give me your name and contact information.
That too. And that's why I'm asking you this. Well, When I filed the lawsuit against the Saudis, against Fondamonte, we needed to get what are called affidavits, so specific information about people who have been harmed, or people who would be harmed by the continued pumping of that company. I can tell you I did hold a very similar town hall about the Riverview Dairy over in Pierce, Arizona. I don't have anything to report to you yet about the results of our investigation in that situation, but we were there. We had 200 people turn out. It was the most emotional. This might be the most emotional town hall. That one, there was a lot of crying actually that happened, I will tell you that, and more tears than I've ever seen in my life at a town hall that I've hosted, and I have hosted literally hundreds of town halls in my time, both as a corporation commissioner and now attorney general. And this is one of the most impactful that I've ever heard, and so I want you to know that I've heard you. But we need that information from you, and if you're willing to give us your name, your contact information, we will obviously be taking this information back to the office and discussing it internally. You may be hearing from us after this meeting. One of you is very interesting, used some very specific language. One of you has been researching the nuisance law.
Many of us.
And I want to read it to you. So many of you have, but okay. Which is 13-2917. And it states that it is a public nuisance and is no less a nuisance because the extent of the annoyance or damage inflicted is unequal for anything, number one, to be injurious to health, indecent, offensive to the senses, or an obstruction to the free use of property that interferes with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property by an entire community or neighborhood or by a considerable number of persons. So, so obviously that's a law that I believe is my job to enforce. It is the law of Arizona. Obviously, so some of you know I've been criticized for enforcing it, but it is the law of the state of Arizona, and I'm going to continue to enforce it where it's applicable. So we're going to take this information back, and we will be back in touch with you about all of this. I want to add, obviously we have been looking at the water issue, looking at the air quality issues, the toxins issues. One thing also that I'm very interested in knowing more about and exploring more, and if you have something to add on this, including the former city council member, I don't know if he's still here, Mr. Judd, is the degree to which the city's wastewater treatment facility is capable of handling the wastewater from this particular operation, and then what would happen to that wastewater / effluent. I think some of it may be put on the golf course. So we're very interested in that. Many times, small city, and it's not just Benson, it's many small cities do not have the capability to handle those kinds of wastes and toxins, and so that's something that obviously I'm also very worried about. So again, I just want to thank you all. This is a beautiful community. You are all obviously very tight-knit. You are a remarkable community, and you remind me of home. So thank you. Thank you for, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I promise you we are going to look at this very, very seriously. Tom Chabin, Kirsten Engel, and my entire team will be getting on this. So thank you very much.